The word failure has such an incredibly negative connotation to it. You might even say that the idea of failure is viewed as being taboo, and that we should only acknowledge and celebrate our successes. However, it is important to understand the beauty that comes from failure. Winston Churchill defines success as the ability of going from failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm. For myself, the numbers of hours of sleep that I have lost over the idea of not possibly achieving my hopes and dreams are countless. I'm scared of the idea of disappointment that has been associated with failure, and as a result, I'm anxious of failing. Now, it is incredibly important to understand why we should embrace the idea of failing. The first being is that failure is a learning curve. We should view it as a sign of redirection. Failure helps us to understand where we shouldn't be, and it provides answers of what works and what doesn't work. Thomas Edison created 10,000 failed prototypes of the lightning bulb. He simply found the alternatives until one eventually worked. Throughout his failed experiments, he simply said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Events like failure are crucial to developing a strong growth mindset. Instead of seeing failure as a roadblock, we should view it as an important part of achieving success. Failure should motivate us to find the strength to try again and learn what the problem was and what steps we need to take in order to reach our desired end result. Secondly, failure shows that we have courage. Even though the results of whatever you were doing weren't exactly what you were hoping for, you at least did something. Taking action can be extremely scary and hard at times. In fact, many people are so frightened by the idea of failure, they hold off on achieving their goals and dreams. Now, courage is not the absence of fear. It's the idea of remaining fearful, but persevering and doing it anyways. To put it in perspective, the Los Angeles location of the University of Southern California makes it extremely eligible for being one of the top film schools in the entire country. The University School of Cinematic Arts is extremely selective, with only 3% of applicants actually being admitted. Now, if I were to ask you where you think Academy Award, Golden Globe, and Emmy Award-winning director Steven Spielberg went to school, I guarantee you a majority of you would guess USC. Well, you would be wrong. Steven Spielberg was actually rejected from the university 3 times. He eventually applied to another school only to drop out to become a director. Similarly, Sylvester Stallone was rejected 1,500 times when he tried selling his script and himself for the film that would ultimately become Rocky. If you view failure as a victory, you view it as the victory of still doing something. If you have the courage to face the failure you fear, that in itself is a victory. Failure is also motivation. Dr. Amy Ashmore does an amazing job at depicting failure as a motivator. She views it as a way to crush mediocrity. She describes it as dreams motivate us to think big and push ourselves beyond the status quo and into something better. If you set a mediocre goal to avoid failure, it will always lead to mediocrity. Playing it safe is far less revealing and easier than setting a lofty goal, putting yourself and your dreams out there and risking ridicule and failure. However, playing it safe won't yield your dream. You have to risk failure in order to avoid mediocrity. But the good news is that failure at a big goal increases your chances of success more than success with moderate goals. Mediocrity will always yield being stuck in the middle. I can say that I have personally undergone what Dr. Ashmore is attesting to here. Growing up, and even to this day, actually, my parents have always told me to never settle to be a mediocre person in life. You want everything you do to be done to the best of your ability, to where you can say that you have integrity in what you've done. This lit a fire beneath me to never settle for what is easy in life, and continues to encourage me to reach beyond what is expected and to achieve what is bigger. Also, failure is ultimately inevitable. At some point in our lives, we have all failed at something, even when we are too embarrassed or prideful to admit. Talent, intelligence, and hard work and passion will not always guarantee success 100% of the time. In life, we have winners and we have losers. It's inevitable as well. What separates the two is those that know how to respond to failure and those who don't. Science even proves that we are able to bounce back from our mistakes. A MRI study conducted by USC and a group of international researchers in 2015 found that having the opportunity to learn from failure can turn it into a positive experience. If the brain has a chance to learn from its mistakes, scientists have long understood that there are two ways in which the brain can learn. One is avoidance learning, which is a punishing negative experience that trains the brain to avoid repeating mistakes, while the other is reward-based learning. This way of learning is a positive reinforcing experience in which the brain feels rewarded for reaching the right answer. The researchers asked 28 subjects, each around 26 years old, a series of questions that challenged them to build on their gains by providing the right answers. If you chose a wrong answer, you lost money, while right answers helped you to earn money. One trial prompted their brains to respond to getting the wrong answer with avoidance learning. A second trial prompted a reward-based learning reaction, and a third trial, but separate trial, tested whether participants had learned from their mistakes. In that third trial, the participants responded positively, activating areas in their brains that some scientists call the reward circuit or the ventral striatum. This experience mimicked the brain's reward-based learning response as opposed to an avoidance learning response, an experience that involves different parts of the brain that together comprise the anterior insula. One of the researchers said that this process is similar to what the brain experiences when feeling regret. With regret, for instance, if you have done something wrong, then you might change your behavior in the future. It is important to understand that failure is inevitable while being a failure is not. How you react to your failure determines the path in which you obtain success. Failure also helps you to discover your fullest potential. It is the very idea of self-perfection that is extremely toxic. When you strive to fulfill a perfect slate in life with making zero mistakes, that very goal will lead to failure. It corrupts your brain and mental health in a way that can be beyond repairable rather than if you had experienced failure and expected it. However, while those who embrace the idea of failure experience an eye-opening moment of how they can reach their fullest potential. In summary, there's a video of Michael Jordan that captures this principle perfectly. He counted the number of times he had let his teammates down when he had missed a game-winning shot. Each time, he recorded each account. In doing so, he captured the fact that he could only have succeeded the few times that he did by pushing through the countless more times he failed. Failure enables success. The amount of preparation, study, and talent merely gets you to a point of a quality effort. If you cannot overcome and learn to wear your failure like a badge of honor, you'll never be anything at all. Remember when we were all learning to ride a bike, and each time we fell or we scraped our knee, it really only made us want to get it back on and ride the bike even more? If we learn to embrace our failures in our everyday life like we did when we were kids, then we would all be able to ride bikes, right?